Hello, Yakri here with another Warframe video. This time I want to talk about the Warframe Dev Workshop on Melee and just kind of go over my thoughts on the topic and how I think it's going to affect game balance and the actual, parts of it. So I think the first thing to talk about are two issues, right? One is that they're changing melee attacks so they no longer strike through walls, and they're giving us dodge cancels out of melee animations. So let's talk about the first part. The first part is clearly a reaction to Maiming Strike being so overpowered. I know a lot of people are going to be upset about this, but I think it's a change that really needs to happen in the game. It's kind of reasonable if you look at Maiming Strike and say like, oh, well, I could put this on the Telos Bolt Ace and just spin into a group of enemies and shred them. It seems reasonable in that case. Or if you're using it on Galatine or Orthos Prime, it's fairly reasonable. But if you're using it on one of the lesser known whips, and then you add on Primed Reach and a Riven mod, it becomes absolutely ridiculous. Especially the Riven Slide crit mods are also pretty overpowered. So you can have something like, oh yeah, 180% crit chance on Slide, and it gets multiplied by Blood Rush. So that's, going to be like 6 times 180% crit chance is your new crit chance, which is almost 12 times 12 times crit, right? That's very, very deep into red crits. And then you add plus range mods, and you can hit an area that's like well over 20 meters with a good Riven roll and the Primed Reach, and just kill enemies up to absurdly high levels with the insane damage that you can get with these mods. So it's very overpowered. It's not even overpowered. It's broken is a good way to put it. It actually breaks the game balance in a pretty significant way. It's more powerful than the majority of Warframe AoE abilities in the game, probably, because it hits through walls and because it's so large range and you can do it very quickly over and over again, and the damage is absurdly high as well. So that needs to be changed. I'm really hoping they will also include a nerf to Maiming Strike so it does not multiply with Blood Rush. It's possible that's being indirectly nerfed because of how the melee combo counter is changing, so maybe they don't think it's necessary, but I kind of hope that is also changed just to kind of clear that up. And I think in new melee, if Maiming Strike works as it does now, except it doesn't stack with Blood Rush, it'll probably still be good. It'll be a useful mod on certain weapons, and that's fine. That's a pretty good place for it. But the way it is now is totally broken. So although I understand why some people are upset with this change, and people are rightly pointing out it's probably going to lead to bugs with melee attacks not hitting enemies when they should. But it needs to happen, unfortunately. So the next thing up, though, is a little bit of a happier note. Melee animation canceling is extremely needed. That's another thing that needed to happen, I think. Melee animations in Warframe lock you into the animation for a very long time, and I think people underestimate how much of that is the fact that Warframe melee animations are 100% uncancelable. In any other game with long-ish melee animations, like Dark Souls is a good example, it has melee animations, you get locked into them, and they're not as long as Warframe. So that's the one thing. Obviously, they're not as long as Warframe, because Warframe animations are a bit too long without sufficient melee attack speed. Now, the thing about Dark Souls, though, is that you can cancel out of the animations up to a certain point. You can't cancel out of the animations all the time, but you can cancel out of them up to a certain point, which makes the combat far more responsive and allows you to correct mistakes, right? If you, if the mistake is more of a fumble than a poor choice on your part. And so melee animation canceling, huge, absolutely huge. I think being able to dodge out of animations is going to make a big difference, because right now there are so many frustrating situations where you can be stuck in an animation, attacking the ground because all the enemies are dead, or dying to ranged fire because you can't do anything in the animation. And in fact, I think they aren't going far enough with some of these things. Just to lay this out before I get into just going down the items one by one, I really wish they would change over to a light attack, heavy attack system, and it would just be like, left click is light attack, right click is heavy attack, and block is some other button like E. when you have your weapon out all the way. Otherwise, you just go through the quick melee silliness. And block cancels, and block canceled attacks as well. That would be excellent. And it would make block, talking about wanting to make block more useful, and I think it's, even 100% damage block is not useful on its own, right? Because if you stand in a corner and you can't be killed, that's not useful in Warframe by itself. Because as soon as you stop blocking, you'll instantly die versus sufficiently high level enemies. That's necessary, right? And once you and you're not doing you're not getting anything done in that corner, right, where you're standing there. Now, if you are playing a frame like perhaps the new reworked Saren with infinitely scaling spores, you could abuse this by hiding in the corner and just waiting for your abilities to kill enemies. So it's abusable, but it's not like a good integrated part of gameplay. Not very often anyway. And if it had animation canceling, you could much more realistically have a situation where, you know, some Grineers going up to melee you cancel your animation, block, and then what would be really great is if you could skip a little bit. If you cancel an animation and then block, within like 1 second or 2 seconds of that, if you attack again, perhaps you could start down a combo path farther into it than the first attack. That could potentially, you know, add a little tiny bit of depth and a little bit of a use to like block for a second, go back into attacking. Especially if we had some maybe neat like on block mods. Like, I don't know if these would actually get used because the focus is so much on just increasing DPS, but you know, you could have a mod like on block, you gain, you know, 100% attack speed for 4 seconds if the block cancels an attack animation. So you attack, cancel, people would probably just abuse it though, so you know. Okay, so that's what I think. I think it would be really interesting if we went into that kind of more, it's not even really a deep melee system, but just kind of like the simple, you know, light attack, heavy attack. Combos are comprised of light and heavy attacks and perhaps block canceling and or you know, movement direction or dodge rolling. There you go. Anyhow, let's get into the details one by one. So we already talked about range, because the not being able to hit through walls. That's probably the most important change, I think. And there's more to that later on. Well, I don't know about the most important. Maybe the most controversial, notable change, you know. So channel blocking is going away. Blocking is just better. Channeling is blocking. Blocking is channeling. Normal blocking now performs like a channel blocking currently does. It sounded like they swapped the keys for channeling and blocking, but I'm not sure what if they mean something more by that, perhaps by channeling is blocking now. But yeah, blocking is getting a lot of buffs to it. There's going to be a ton of buffs to blocking. I'm skeptical as to its usefulness just because not attacking is inherently unuseful. But we'll see. We'll see. So we're going to see the cool factor of channeling in combat. I'm not sure channeling has too much of a cool factor. I will say that despite everyone's derision of channeling, toggling on channeling certainly is useful in Warframe once in a while right now, particularly while leveling weapons or just using melee as your primary attack mode. Occasionally, you can be in a situation where you have far more energy than you need, and melee attacks aren't killing enemies on the first strike. And if channeling makes melee attacks kill enemies on the first strike, well worth it. So, I don't know. But cool factor, I'm not sure there's a cool factor to it. But maybe I'm just the odd man out there. Combo counter. So combo counter is totally different now. Now there's none of this multiplying damage. So 2x combo counter, you don't get double damage. Not on all your attacks anyway. Instead, your heavy attacks benefit from and drain the combo counter. Not sure how I feel about that, really. It's probably... Heavy attacks are probably just not useful. A lot of people have commented this. I think there are ways for heavy attacks to be useful, certainly, but not without more changes than DE has mentioned to us so far, right? Because they're slow, they don't hit enough enemies compared to like a slide attack. They're just kind of generally bad. If they could be worked into combos more seamlessly, if they were faster universally, and if heavy attacks, like as a general rule, extended the range of your weapon, maybe I could see it being a thing. Well, they are reworking slam and heavy attacks, so possibly they will make changes to heavy attacks that will prove me wrong. So I hope so. I'm able to dual wield any one-handed weapon and a secondary weapon with any secondary weapon. Huzzah! This is exactly what we were, you know, hoping for a long time ago. It's finally coming. That's cool. Yeah, all right. Dodge canceling. I've talked about how important dodge canceling is. True range of melee attacks. They said a couple things a little bit different about this on the dev stream compared to the dev workshop. So yeah, they're gonna change the weapon models to fit the range of the weapons. I got that, or at least change the range of the weapons to fit the models better, more likely. But what I don't get is they mentioned in the dev stream, I believe, making the range of weapons shorter overall. I don't think that's mentioned here. Maybe it's included in mod adjustments, right? Mod adjustments means reducing the range of they mentioned increasing the base range of melee weapons. So I don't know if melee weapons are really getting an across the board base range increase, or if that was just someone misspeaking. I think that, what's the word I'm looking for here? I think it's actually a good change overall. Melee weapons probably have too much range. Range mods are going to be nerfed. Okay, that's reasonable. I kind of wish range wasn't a Riven stat, because that kind of unbalances things, but such is life. Okay, so and the stat rework, the same stat rework we got for primary weapons and got for secondary weapons and shotguns all separately, we're getting that for melee weapons as well. And the I don't think I mentioned the stat or the stance homogenization previously properly, which they're mentioning here really quickly. So they said this on the dev stream. So if you've seen my video on the dev stream, you already know about this. But they're going to change stances. So like each stance will have a first combo, second combo. I don't know if they're gonna how many they're gonna have exactly, but they'll have the same number of combos, and the combos for different stances will all use the same inputs. So if combo 1 is attack, pause, attack, 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 every stance in the game is going to be attack, pause, attack, attack, attack to get that combo. All the combos are going to have the same number of attacks in them, and they're all going to take this any combo in the same slot. Like the combo 1 will always have the same keys you have to use to do it, right? So that's I think that's a good change. Probably it's not really like an ideal situation, right, for like a cool deep melee game. I don't think it would really be a good change to see in a fighting game or in a game like Devil May Cry, but in Warframe, where there are so many stances and they want to implement more of them presumably in the future with so many weapon types, I don't think it's realistic to have this like extensive combo depth, or I don't think, or if it is, even if you could manage it, I'm not sure it's that meaningful. And it's probably going to be much better to have combos that you can actually manage to learn. People probably end up using more of the odd combos. So I think it's a good change. It definitely cuts out some depth from the game, but I'm not sure that depth had a lot of meaning to begin with. So yeah, this was not a very brief video, but I wanted to go into this in pretty like high detail. So if you like this content, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Maybe, you know, give me some input on how I can improve in the future. Thank you all for watching. Yakri out.